No, you don't do meditation because it's good for you. You do meditation and you swing with it. It's because it's fun. It's because it's something that you enjoy doing.
Welcome to the Spirits Beside Us podcast. I'm your host, Chris Lippincott. I'm an ex-Wall Street analyst turned international medium, spiritual teacher, and best-selling author. Each week, we'll dive into the fascinating and uplifting arena of the non-physical world to help you deepen your understanding and spiritual connection to the unseen realm. We'll also share a behind-the-scenes look with others who've done the same and speak with experts in the field about their experiences. Pull up a seat and let's dive into these perspective-changing conversations. Welcome, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Spirits Beside Us. I'm so happy to have you here. And today we've got an absolutely wonderful guest. His name is Rudy Daniel, and he's an entrepreneur in the mindfulness space, which I think we can all get our arms around. He's also an author and a philosopher. What I find fascinating is he's really passionate not only about music and nature, but also about the mysteries of the universe, which I think we're all grappling with and we're all trying to learn. And he's really delved into the philosophies of Eastern traditions like, Hinduism and Buddhism, Zen, Tao, and many more. But he's also, as well, explored Western philosophy, science, arts, and really sort of brought all of that knowledge together into a conglomerate of what he's understanding. So I find everything that he's been doing and learning so fascinating. So Rudy, thank you for coming on the show.
Hey, Chris, thank you so much for having me and for the warm and kind introduction. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. I absolutely love it. One of the things that I think many people hear, but perhaps don't fully understand or they're not fully able to get their arms around is the concept of mindfulness, which by itself almost seems to be counterintuitive, because if we want to be calm and leave our minds behind, you might think, well, why should we be thinking about the mind? Shouldn't we not be thinking about the mind? So how would you describe mindfulness and, what's important about it?
That's a great question because it's something that I'm asked a lot. What is mindfulness? So maybe let's prepare the ground for what is mindfulness by saying that there are two basic terms that are being used very often in the Western society, the Western world. One is meditation and the other one is mindfulness. And a lot of times they are used synonymously as if they're the same. So maybe let's draw the line there. So meditation is an Eastern tradition, thousands of years old. No one really knows how old, but it was brought to the Western world in the last century or so. In the last 20, 30, 40 years, it got some traction, and now it's peaking as something that we all well are familiar with the concept of meditation. But in the Eastern traditions, meditation is something really different from what we understand in the West. Meditation, even the word itself, in English, meditation is from thinking, is to meditate on something, is to think about something. And the Eastern understanding of meditation is the state of your being stripped away from all its concepts, all its filters, and all its ideas. And let's say the state of meditation is the most fundamental and basic state of the soul or the self. When we think of meditation in the West, we think about sitting and closing our eyes for 10 minutes or so and trying to think of nothing, or think of clouds, or resist the mind, or calm the mind, which I would suggest that is nearly impossible, especially if you don't have the context and the cultural background of what are you trying to achieve. Mm-hmm. And this is why a lot of people in the West tend to get what I like to call meditation fatigue. And you ask people, well, do you meditate? And they say, well, I used to meditate. It was really cool for 3 months, and then I stopped. So it's like a common thing. Okay, so this is meditation. Now, what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is also a very ancient. It's not really a method, but it's the background, the backdrop of all methods. It is kind of derived of the word itself. It is being full of mind and being mindful. That means being intensely aware of the present moment. And maybe to give a quick demonstration of what mindfulness is, what is being aware intensely on of the present moment is something like breathing, but not only breathing, but let's do the exercise for breathing. So to be mindful of your breath means you have to focus all of your attention in a very specific, narrowed down phenomena in your day-to-day activity, like the breath, for example. And so what you're trying to do is to follow a specific muscle when it goes up or down, or you're trying to follow the air, or you're trying to, there are a lot of phenomena going on only with the breath. And when you're doing that and you're very, very attentive, very, very aware of what is going on now when you're breathing, you're localizing your point of view on one thing. And when you do that, there's a sort of a magic happens. And the magic is that because you become sort of a point of awareness instead of being surrounded by all other phenomena, you narrow your point of awareness to a certain phenomena, and the reality unfolds in a very different way. And this is what I call a crack in reality, which expands with time and with practice. So why mindfulness is good for us, for the Western mind, is for the simple reason that you don't need anything fancy. You don't need fancy words. You don't need cultural background. You don't need doctrines. You don't need belief. It's an experimental thing, and you will not exhaust yourself. So breathing was just only one technique, but you can drink your coffee mindfully, you can walk mindfully, you can cook mindfully, you can talk to your friend mindfully, you can do anything mindfully. And with time, this method unfolds to be your everyday life. So this is the premise behind mindfulness and basically what it is.
It seems that to the whole concept of mindfulness, as you kind of brought, it's like being mindful 100% of whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're focusing 100% on the breath, or you're focusing 100% on the tip of your nose, or you're focusing 100% on walking, whatever it is. You are aware of being aware, and all of a sudden all other external stimuli fall away, and you're just suddenly in that place of the now. You're here. You're fully aware of that one thing. Mantra would do it as well. If you're just focused on the one mantra, it kind of brings you to the here and now.
Exactly. And you said something great, but it's quite advanced. You said being aware of being aware. And this is the consequence of practicing a simple thing, is that you realize that you're aware of being aware, which is quite mind-blowing. The experience, not the intellectual entertainment of this idea, but the actual experience. You're just, oh, I'm aware that I'm aware. And that expands your experience, that expands everything, and life becomes more profound once you see that experimentally from this point of view. That you are a point of awareness, and it changes everything, I would say, from your day-to-day life. You will not be able to fly or walk on water, but I promise you that your life will get a certainly positive twist, and you'll be enjoying life much more.
Oh yeah. You may feel like you can do those things because you'll be in your meditation, you'll be in your focus of just being peace, and then you start to realize, holy cow, I'm not the physical being I thought I was. Now I kind of feel like I'm stepping outside of my being. I'm now peace. I'm now spirit. I'm now the cloud. I'm now out there, and I don't want to come back. This is just way too nice. This is so awesome. I'll do that sometimes where I'll go into a meditation. I'll go into a peace meditation. I'll become something other than I am here. And I'm like, I don't really think I want to come back. And when I do come back, I'm still halfway there, still halfway out there. I'm like, it takes me a while to come back.
Yeah, for sure. You can go in all different kinds of ecstasy. There's a very high teaching in Zen Buddhism that says if you meet the Buddha in your meditation, just kill him. Because, well, it's quite a high teaching. If you would suggest that to a regular person and say, I would love to meet the Buddha in my meditation, right?
Right.
But they're saying it from the point of view that as long as you are involved in these kind of amazing fantasies that could be very, very profound, you're still in the mind.
Mm.
I would suggest that you don't need to kill the Buddha. You can enjoy his company, or any great fantasy that will take you. It's like dreams. Sometimes we enjoy dreams very much, and we want to go back to the dream when we wake up. So it's part of this phenomena when, as you suggested, you do some sort of meditation and you're the clouds, you're the universe. It's a beautiful experience.
Yeah, have tea with the Buddha. I think that's the best middle ground. maybe pour some tea on and see what happens. I mean, what's so interesting is that, and I think you're alluding to this before, is the concept of meditation. People say, okay, well, maybe meditation is going to be this wonderful cure-all. Let me go try it for a while, and then people get frustrated as they do it for a few months, and they're like, but my mind is constantly going. I'm constantly getting distracted. I can't focus. And oh, well, aren't I supposed to go into silence and I'm not supposed to hear anything, know anything? And oh, gee, if I have a thought, I fail.
Yeah.
And so they just say, okay, I'm done. Forget it. I can't do it. And I try to tell them, well, the only people that are actually not having a thought have already transitioned. You have to allow the thoughts and that's the whole process. It's just letting them go.
Yes, but it is very difficult to convey such an idea because in our society, we are doing things because we think they are good for us. So you meditate. The premise of meditation is do it because it will be good for your mind, and then you will be more productive at work, and you will be, So no, you don't do meditation because it's good for you. You do meditation and you swing with it. It's because it's fun. It's because it's something that you enjoy doing. And then if you do that from that standpoint, you take out all of the biases of why you're doing that. And this is what fails most people, because like you said, the first thought that arises could be something like, why the hell am I doing it? Or
Yeah.
my leg's itchy, or is it hot in here? Is it cold in here?
Did I pay the bills? Did I take out the trash?
Take out the trash. What about the email? So as long as you're doing it because you think it will be good for you, you're trapped. And this is why it's so difficult for a lot of people to do meditation, because it feels like a chore. And the reason it feels like a chore is because it doesn't have all the cultural background and context of what it is. And this is why mindfulness, I think, and I feel that it's the right way for the Western mind to go about these sort of experiences.
Yeah. And if you also teach people that, hey, meditation is not here to, while it has all these, scientifically proven benefits, it's got all these wonderful, after results, sure, that's not necessarily why you're doing it. Because if you're thinking, okay, I have to meditate so I can achieve X, you've completely negated the purpose. You do it for the enjoyment of the meditation, so that when you come out of it, you just feel full of joy, full of positivity, full of wonderful emotions so that you start to get hooked on it. I know that's kind of what happened to me. It's like I was in an incredibly stressful job in the corporate world, and I started searching for something, and then eventually stumbled onto the concept of meditation, which at the time was completely foreign to me. But I stumbled onto this fabulous track, which I literally got addicted to, was listening to it for 15 minutes every day. I was like, wow, this is pretty good. I don't want to stop listening to this. So I just kept on going and enjoying it because it didn't have an agenda. It wasn't telling me I should do anything. It's just like, relax and enjoy it. I'm like, cool, I can do that. And so I did this for a year, and boom, after that year, that's when I had my awakening. And so, but if somebody had come to me and said, well, you got to do this, and this way you're going to stop getting all stressed out, well, it never would have worked.
Yeah. And also you have different kinds of minds. Your mind may be more receptive to this kind of exercises, but you have a lot of minds that are very analytical and have a lot of judgment and a lot of self-reflection. And for these kinds of minds, sitting quietly for 10 minutes, literally it's torture.
Yeah. Oh, well, I was coming from Wall Street. I was pretty analytical, so it was pretty torturous in the beginning. So I was like, oh, but that's why sometimes, like, when I'll sit and listen to music, I'm just like, oh, this is fabulous. So it had, a nice audible background track, and listening to the music, and I was like, oh, this is great. So it's like, it was like, the commercial Calgon, Take Me Away. That was the feeling I had. I was like, ooh, I just kind of floated away. I was like, I can get used to this. This is a lot better than my day job.
Yeah, it resonated with you perfectly.
Oh yeah,
but
I needed it badly.
What I saw, it doesn't resonate with a lot of people. The premise, yes, but actually the results, no, because most stop after few tries because they think it doesn't work, and I feel that in the times we're living right now, when we have anxiety and depression and lack of purpose, and people are it's like a pandemic. It's a mental health pandemic, and
it is.
I think we should raise awareness about how to treat our inner worlds. We have been so captivated in the idea that the external world, labels and all of these things, that's what matters, and that's why we have developed this go attitude. But when you reach a certain age, you suddenly understand that it's the meaning of it is not that profound. The meaning of it will not solve your problems.
Yeah,
and this is why we need to raise this awareness, and I think it's very important.
Yeah, exactly. And I it's also one thing I tell my students is focus on the feeling. Because that, it takes you inside, takes you out of your brain, but also if you start to focus on the feelings and the enjoyment and the pleasure, you can start to feel the greater positivity, the greater sense of peace, the greater sense of ultimate bliss eventually. But you start to get out of that, discomfort. If you start to feel more relaxed, if you start to feel calmer, and you start to just go, what am I feeling? I'm feeling better. Okay, that's a step in the right direction. Go that way. Follow that feeling, as opposed to what's in my head.
Yeah. But even for me, my kind of mind, even if I were to relax, I'm talking about many years before, the sensation of relaxation could execute my anxiety, because I would think that if I'm relaxed, I'm not doing enough. So there are different kind of minds, and it's very difficult to find something that answers all of the questions for all kinds of minds. And this is why I think, because the most compelling thing is experience, right? I mean, I could tell you that fire will burn your skin, but if you didn't try it and you didn't put your hand above the stove and you got burned, you didn't have this experience. You're not that compelled to believe, right? But if you had the experience, that's it. No more stories, and there's nothing to tell you. You can taste it for yourself. And I think we should invite people to experiment, and to experiment with something that is rewarding, fast, which is very suitable for the way we consume knowledge in the West, right? We see all the phenomena with TikTok, with Instagram, with people are looking for fast gratifications now. Everything is shorter. So we need to use these tools to try and push this idea, this agenda. We'll try using these tools, not using tools that were invented thousands of years ago in a different continent, because the number of people that will resonate with it is significantly less than the number of people that resonate with the way we consume knowledge in the West.
Yeah, it's a whole different approach. It's so much faster. It's just so much different methodology at this point. What take us back to your to your journey, to your catalyst. What was it that got you? I mean, where were you? You clearly didn't start here. So what was it that where were you before? What was it that got you to step onto this road, step onto this journey, and exploration?
So I think that my childhood played a significant role, because when I was a child, I was certainly amazed by the universe. I didn't take it for granted. I always thought about very interesting ideas. I remember that I used to lie down in my bed and think of the infinite, and it kind of blew me away, because I was thinking, wait, if space is infinite, I was trying to travel in my imagination through the infinite and trying to find a border in the infinite. And once I found a sort of a border, then I asked myself, well, if there is a border, there is something beyond the border. I can, as a child, I could drill a hole in the border, and there's a new substance to be found.
There's something beyond that too.
Beyond that too. So the idea of the infinite was driving me crazy as a child. I was very, very much, under the impression that the universe is the most exciting thing that you can ever encounter. And I think as a consequence, I had a lot of mystical experiences as a child, different things, and but later on in my life, throughout my adolescence, and when I grew up to be an adult, I've kind of forgot all about it, and my life became regular, mundane. I did all the things that an adult should do, to pursue a career, to try and make something out of yourself, to be this person that fits in society, or person that leads society, or everyone with their ideas. But I felt that all these frontiers have been explored before, and I can play with different variations, but in the end of the day, it's kind of the same. And it was very discouraging to wake up every morning feeling that life is a drag, that I have to do all these things again and again and again, and it brought me down. But through this process of slow desperation, let's put it artistically and poetically, I suddenly remembered the questions I had as a child, and I was like, wait, what is this place I'm so used to? It's kind of profound, isn't it? And who am I anyway that asks all these questions? And these questions sent me to a really long journey that still to this day unfolds. And through this journey, I wrote my book, Behind the Mask, Beyond the Mind, that talks about all these questions and the nature of reality, and discusses questions like, who am I? And after the book, or parallel to the book, I've co-founded the Affirmate app, which is a mindfulness app that carries in its nature the same philosophy that we have discussed some minutes ago about how to engage with mindfulness, what to do with mindfulness, how to practice, how to experience. And so it was a very interesting journey. And here I am today, still on the journey, still on the path, learning and experiencing. And yeah, it's great.
Wow. So were you drawn to explore Hinduism, Buddhism, Zen, Tao, or did you see them referenced and say, what is this? Or how did you start to, learn about them? Did you go all in, or was this sort of like, okay, let me, sample all these things and see where they lead me?
So in the beginning, I was very keen to explore by myself without any biases. So I refrained from studying different teachings and philosophies, and I was just sitting in my balcony and trying to figure out the universe. But at some point, I thought that maybe, other people had better ideas than mine, and better tools, and maybe I should not be that arrogant and trying to figure out everything by myself. And I started to look up for different ideas. I didn't have any preference, and still to this day, I don't have any preference. I don't consider myself as a Buddhist or a Hindu or anything, really. I don't have any attachment to any of those. But I found that the Eastern teachings has a lot of subtleties that speaks to my kind of mind, especially with Buddhism and Zen, which are very scientific in nature, very logical. And if you are quiet enough in your mind, you can hear this when they discuss. Just for an example, the thing that blew me away is the idea of the polarity of things, or the duality of the world, which is basically an empirical phenomenon that you can observe, and everyone would agree that, let's say, take the concept of up and down. So the concept of up and down seems very different. One is going in one direction and the other one is going in the opposite direction. So the conclusion would be they are very different, right? It's like good and bad, up and down, beauty, ugliness, etc. But if you examine them closely, you clearly see that if you take one of them out, there is no concept left. So if you would have only up without having down, there is no up. There is no reference.
Exactly.
And so in a very funny way, in a very mysterious way, those things conspire to look different, but they are the same. So all the multiplications and diversifications of the universe in the things we call stuff or things are actually one thing. And this is the idea of the yin yang, the ancient Chinese Tao philosophy, where you have the two kind of fishes, or two shapes, the white and the black chasing each other. And in the black you have a white circle, and in the white you have a black circle. So it's the same idea that they tried to convey thousands of years ago, and said, look at the universe. It's not what you think. So reality is not really what people think it is. It's something way more profound and interesting in nature. And this is the mechanics of the illusion. And this is why I loved Eastern philosophy and Eastern tradition. And by the way, also in the West, there are some great minds that thought of these concepts as well. But what resonated in the East, that was thousands of years ago and not 50 years ago.
It's so fascinating, I find, for example, how Eastern philosophy, especially Buddhism and Buddhist philosophy, is replicated in quantum physics. You brought up the concept of polarity. You can't know one without the other. The one is meaningless without the other. In fact, spirit guides will come through and say, you can't know pain unless you know pleasure, or vice versa. You can't know pleasure unless you know pain, because the pleasure will have no meaning without the pain. And that whole idea. And also the same concept of when Buddha said, all that you are is a result of what you have thought. goes to the quantum physics principle, the Copenhagen interpretation, in that all matter is diversified at all points until you have one energy focus on those points. They coalesce and they come into reality.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Your thoughts create the thing. Your thoughts create the reality. Otherwise, it's not there.
I think that more and more the frontiers of science will find out that this world is not material, and there are a lot of scientists now that are tuning in to this idea, but they are kind of doing it in in a safe manner. They're calling it panpsychism, which means that every atom has a self-reflection mechanism and it's alive. Well, it's the beginning, but there are better ideas in the scientific community, like analytic idealism and stuff like that, that says that the world is mental, just like dreams. And with time, I think that we will come to a swift conclusion that this world is mental and not material. And once science understands that there will be a lot of new things we can achieve and accomplish, and the way we lead our life from this standpoint. So it's not a surprise that these ideas brought by the Eastern tradition resonates with modern science.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the point that so many times that spirits come back and said, you're nothing but living a dream. You will soon wake up to out of the dream into the true reality. You'll wake up to the truth. And so many times, spirits come through and said, wow, I'm glad I woke up out of that nightmare.
Exactly.
It's like I feel alive now. I feel awake. Oh, this feels so much better. Boy, that was a real drag down there.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, how can we help people to understand that we live in the illusion of our own minds, and that everything that we walk through as we go through is not so much the reality we think it is, it's the projection of our own state, our own mind, our own thought process? How can we help people kind of get their arms around that whole very broad idea?
Yeah. I think we should stop trying. I know that this may sound not very popular, but I mean, in the way of convincing, we should stop trying waking up people. This is not the way to go about it. If you really think it through, the whole idea of the illusion is not a curse. It's a blessing. It's a way to experience something in a very, very profound way. So now most of people are convinced that there is someone doing something, right? And as you said, when they will wake up, they will say, wow, that was a trip, but if you're busy waking up everybody, what are you doing really? You're ending their illusion. So what I think we should do is, instead of trying to convince people with sophisticated ideas, we should give tools for people to experiment with and find out for themselves. Because and it doesn't matter if you put it in a very beautiful, poetic, philosophical manner, or you're building a religion out of it. In the end of the day, what you're doing is creating a belief system. And the nature of duality is that a belief is, the polarity of belief is doubt. So you're just going through a revolving door when you're trying to do that kind of things. And I think that it will be much better just to give people tools to say, okay, don't believe, just experiment. We'll take this and go and do that. And this is exactly the mission, my mission, and the mission of Affirmate, our app, is exactly to do that, is to give people tools to experiment for themselves with small, not small, but short and interactive things they can do that they will convince themselves, and no one will do it from the outside. So I think that will be the best way to go about it. Yeah, and I know it sounds strange, but I thought about it quite a lot. That you mentioned the teaching, the Eastern teaching. So if you read the Eastern teachings enough time, you realize that they are very profound, very, very profound. But what is the percentage of the population that tunes in to those teaching? Very, very small. Very, very small. So it doesn't matter how great is your idea of convincing someone at something, even if you are, a Zen monk or you are a master, Buddhist master. The number of people that will tune into this idea would be relatively small. But if you're not trying to convince anyone, but just give them tools to do it for themselves, I think that could change the world.
Yeah, exactly. It's like saying, okay, well, I'm going to tell you what this means, and therefore I'm going to convince you, or I'm going to let you walk your own path, and you'll open up yourself, as opposed to having somebody else tell you. It's like, I think we were talking about the concept of the experience and burning the skin. You can tell a child not to touch the hot stove 100 times. Is they going to listen to you? No. But only when the child touches that hot stove themselves and they experience that pain, never again will they ever touch that hot stove.
Absolutely. And the same goes for all other experiences like love, like music. You need to try it for yourself.
Yeah. It's your own personal experience. Once you experience it yourself and you feel it, you know it, and you've incorporated it into your own world, your own reality, it becomes yours, and you can do with it what you want, as opposed to somebody. It's like you're in a classroom and you're trying to understand a math problem, and the teacher will keep on giving you the answer or giving you the this is what you're supposed to do, and until you actually figure it out yourself, you don't have a clue what he's talking about.
Absolutely. Great example.
Wow. So what are some of the tools that people might be able to use, whether it's meditation or whether it's some of the things in your app? How can people begin to start to either begin to slowly open up a little bit, or experiment, or start to learn a little bit more about what's just beyond their reality, and as they start to grow themselves?
That's a great question that I've asked myself many, many times. But the truth is that even what we did with Affirmate is not a result of a thought process, but it is a result of a dream. I had a dream about 3 years ago, and in that dream, I saw a way to mindfulness for everyone. From the dream, the idea was to immerse someone in a very short period of time into being fully present intensely, so in our case for 90 seconds, okay? Because we know the attention span today in the Western world. So doing mindfulness fully immersed for a short period of time is the key. You don't need to start with something fancy. You don't need to go to Japan and learn Zen. Because most of people will not do it. But besides Affirmate and the tools we offer, you can also practice what I've suggested. To just take something that you like drinking coffee, like walking your dog, like anything that is part of your mundane life and it doesn't require any extra activity from your end, and just do it very intensely. Just with focus on that thing until you merge with it. That's it. You don't need to resist thoughts. You don't need to close your eyes. You don't need to do any of those things. After you have walked this path, you can absolutely then go and try things like meditation, which is more progressed in nature. And it's a very, very powerful method that I personally love. I love to meditate.
Yeah.
But the tool to begin should be simpler. And this is the premise of Affirmate, and this is the premise of mindfulness.
Yeah,
I think everyone can find an example in their lives of what they
that makes so much sense. It's doing something that you already enjoy, doing something that you already want to do, so that it doesn't feel like it's a burden or a chore. You're like, okay, I like doing this. I'm just going to keep on doing this. So that way, you're now focusing on the consistency of it because you actually enjoy it. And I think it's always the consistency of anything, especially whether it's meditation or mindfulness. It's the consistency that's going to get you to that end state. So if you're doing it with something that you enjoy, if you're doing it with something that's going to resonate with you, walking your dog, listening to music, whatever it is, for a short period of time, so that you don't feel like, oh, I gotta go do this. Just do it for like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and you're done. You're like, oh, that was great. Okay, let me move on to the next thing. You'll start to notice that, hey, I really like that. I might want to do that just a little bit longer. Add another minute. Oh, I feel really good, until eventually you're like, I don't want to stop. And you're like, ooh, this is great.
Beautiful example, great example. You said something so true, that it doesn't have to feel like a chore, because you need to do it consistently. And the one thing you can do in this manner, to do it day in, day out, is only if you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, there will come a time that you will say, you know what, it's not for me anymore. I don't feel it. It's like gyms. People, I can make the case that scientifically proven that the gym will make your body stronger, fitter, ripped, whatever it is. It is proven. Just go to a gym and see.
We know that's going to happen.
Why not all people go to the gym? Why? Exactly for the same reason, that if you don't enjoy it, your motivation will drop at some point and you will stop. So absolutely the same thing here, as you just described it beautifully. I think you just nailed it.
Yeah, it's like it's if you can get to that point where it becomes so enjoyable that it turns into that pleasurable state, that pleasurable addiction, kind of what happened to me that 12 months. I was just like addicted to listening to the music. I was like, this is phenomenal. Forget going to work. I'm just going to listen to this. I was addicted to it, and it was a lot better than going to the gym. I'll guarantee you that. So my mind wanted it. I was like glued to it. I was addicted to it. This is wonderful. And I not only was first getting addicted to the music, then I was getting addicted to the peace and the calm and the relaxation. I was like, it just all just started coming together, and it started pulling me. And so I was just like, that's what I wanted more of, was that wonderful feeling, that wonderful sensation, that joy, that calm. I was like, I enjoy this. This feels good. I'm gonna, because that's what as humans, that's what we're geared towards. That's what we go to. There's something in our brains where we always want to do what we enjoy. It's the pleasure mechanism or something. I forget the term, but it's our pleasure mechanism where we always want that thing that we enjoy, and that's what it is.
Yeah, I think it's a reward mechanism.
Yes, that's what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. And then you do it not from the point that it is good for you. You're just doing it because you love it.
Yeah, totally. If you love it, do it. So if you love walking your dog, do it. If you love listening to music, do it. Do whatever it is that makes your heart swell. And if you feel good about it, keep doing it. And that's what's it's like, can you say that about the gym? Probably not. I know I can't. The only way I can go to a gym, in fact, I'm going today. The only way I can go to a gym is if I pay a darn trainer to make me go. And I'm like, all right, I'm accountable. I have to go. All right. Yeah. At the end of the day, I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. I feel good. But going there, it's like 80% of the result is showing up. It's the same thing with meditation, same thing with everything else. It's 80% of it is just showing up. Just show up. And what's going to make you show up? The pleasure, the reward, the feeling, the joy. That's my soapbox. Yeah. That's me and my soapbox.
And by the way, I have a friend that is a trainer, a gym trainer, and I'm the kind of guy that is is a classic story about going to the gym and leaving after a few months because I didn't have the motivation. But one time I trained with him, and he told me, when you push the weights, think of the muscle, like focus on the muscle. What is the muscle doing? And it sent me to a whole new trip of the way I conceived the activity of a gym, because a moment before I was just pushing weights and I had these million different thoughts, but I was pushing weights and I was getting tired and all this jazz about being in the gym. But when he said, think about the muscle, it turned my awareness to a whole new idea, to a whole new trip. And since then, I've been consistent. I'm not going to a gym. I set up a gym at home, but basically it's the same thing. And I do it every day. And when I do it, I'm so aware of the motions that I do that's my trip. My trip is not the gym. My trip is, I wonder how my muscles will play out this time, the motion, the movement. And so there's a way to go to the gym mindfully as well, but I think that we need a whole new episode just for that.
Oh yeah, totally. And that's where the saying, the mind in the muscle, put the mind in the muscle. And that was what one of my trainers used to say, is like, put your mind in the muscle and you're good. Sometimes I'll put my mind in the muscle. Other times I'll put my mind in a hot tub and I'm somewhere else. And I'm like, I'm like, oh, okay, I love this hot tub. I love this hot tub. I love this hot tub. And the next thing they're like, okay, good. You've done your rep. you've done your set. You're all good. I'm like, do I have to leave the hot tub? But it got me there. It's whatever it is. Like I was mindful of the hot tub.
Beautiful.
It's whatever, whatever works for you. For you, you're like, okay, I can think of the muscle. So you had the mind in the muscle. For me, I was like, mind in and then I moved hot tub. Like, all right. But that'll only get you so far, right? It's like, I guess that's the other part. It's like your mind can be somewhere else, but eventually something's going to pull you back. The pain, something else is going to pull you back. And you're like, I guess that would also be true in meditation or mindfulness. Something's going to pull you back from that awareness.
Absolutely. This is why you should not get hooked on the method. Because there's a saying in Buddhism that you can knock on a door with a brick, but once the door is opened, you leave the brick outside of the door. You don't go in with the brick. So the method is always the brick, is always the way to go to where you need to go. But if you cling to the method, it will be a revolving door. You will always keep getting to the point where you need to let go of the method and go through the door. But if you insist to cling to the method, you will always be in that revolving door. And that's what happens to a lot of spiritual people, for example. And they suffer with their practices. I have to do my meditation. I have to do my ritual. I don't need this negative energy. So you can see those patterns of clinging to methods. And what I love so much about mindfulness, that mindfulness by definition is not a method. It's just a playground. And you can figure out your own methods, but you need to, it's a bit, the conversation can be somehow more progressive if we talk about this point of view. But let's say that you should start with mindfulness, with these kind of activities, but with time, it will unfold to something much greater than you had in mind. And that's where you need to be a bit cautious, because once you see the profoundness of it, you should let go of the method and just surrender to the experience. And that's what surrendering is all about.
Yeah. And that's what I'm always teaching my students, is to trust and surrender. And I think those are two of the biggest hurdles that students have, whether it's for meditation or whether it's for mediumship or spirituality. It's the trusting, knowing that the process is working as it's supposed to, and then surrendering to everything they're receiving and experiencing. It's because our ego minds want control of everything that's happening. We have to learn to let go of that control.
Yeah, yeah. Especially the super ego, which will pose as the enlightened mind or the mind who was awakened, and will say, "Oh, it's me. I've got all these experiences. It's because I'm that great," or something like that.
Right.
And that's just another thought, that just another play of the ego. So that's why surrender is so important.
Yeah. Surrender is something that's far bigger than you ever could be.
Absolutely.
And you'll find yourself growing that much faster and moving and progressing that much farther beyond what you could ever imagine is capable. Well, that's great. What do you think has been perhaps the greatest or most important lesson that you've learned in your life?
Don't get stuck on methods. Don't cling to anything. The nature of reality, as observed by any individual, whether it's a human being or it's an animal, that life is transient. It keeps on changing. That's the nature of reality. Nothing is ever stuck. Everything is moving. Even our Earth is moving, although it seems that we're, kind of stable. We're not. We're spinning. We're going in deep space. Everything is moving. You never see the same ocean again. You'll never see the same day again. Everything is changing. So if you have this fundamental understanding that everything is ever changing, trying to cling to something will create resistance by definition. And it's like you're trying to stand in the middle of the lake and resist the currents. It's not the best way to lead your life. And I think that creates a lot of problems, especially for the ego, which tries to be stable, tries to, people try to figure out who they are and say, I'm this person, I'm this, especially ages 30 to 40, you kind of figure out who you are and you're trying to cling to the idea of who you are. So this is the lesson I've learned, that you need to understand that life is transient. And by definition, because you are also life, you are not different from life. You are life. You are also transient. You're also changing. I'm not the same Rudy as I was when I was 5 years old. I'm not the same as I were yesterday.
Your cells are constantly moving and dying and growing, and you're constantly a different physical being.
Yeah, physical being and psychic wise, I'm different. Everything keeps on changing. So I look at this.
It's like the Hermetic philosophy that everything is in motion, and that we also know in quantum physics everything is energy, and therefore everything is in vibration, and everything is in oscillation. Everything's moving consistently. Nothing ever stands still because it's always in motion.
Exactly. If something sits still, it has no manifestation. You will not notice it.
Yeah, it doesn't really exist because everything that exists is energy, and everything that is energy has a vibration. It may be different than yours. You may be slow, it may be fast, but it's there. It has a vibration of some kind. Even a rock has a vibration.
Yeah, absolutely. You have the wind that the wind, when it meets the rock, it creates some sort of a sound. Or if you throw the rock, it creates some sort of a sound. So a rock, by definition, is also an activity, and a rock has not always been a rock. It's where sand scattered, and with time it became a rock,
right?
Whatever. So everything you see, everything observable, is an activity. So if you understand life from this point of view, you, by definition, will not try to cling to anything, because it will contradict your existence.
I mean, and that's a great analogy about the rock. What we perceive as a rock that in our speed of time looks like it's immobile. If you speed time up to the time of like lightning speed, what was the life of the rock? It comes out of a volcano. It used to be molten lava. It came from the center of the earth. It was molten lava. It moved. It hardened. Then it becomes sand over time as the elements erode it, goes in the sand, goes in the ocean, goes down into the earth, and it just keeps on moving. So if you put it on like that fast forward time frame, it's rapidly moving, rapidly changing. Yet we just look at it and we're like, oh, it's a rock. It's not doing anything.
Absolutely.
It depends on your time frame.
Exactly. It's the illusion of the time frame, because we live by minutes, hours, and so on. But some activities like rock, they live for their time frame could be every 1,000 years you will see a change. It's like plants in your house. You do not see the plants moving all the time, but you can actually see their motion in a period of days. They grow, they change their position according to the sun. They're alive, they're moving, they're doing something, but it's not very noticeable for us because we live in a different time frame than other elements.
Or look at the fruit fly. The fruit fly has a life of 1 day, whereas we have the average life of 80 some odd years. So very different lifespans, very different lifetimes. So the 1 day of a entire life of a fruit fly for us is 1 day. So to them, it's really, to us, it's really fast. To them, it's really long. So again, it's one is short, one is really long. And so it goes to the nature of what is time. Time is a man-made construct based on our view of the sun. So Spirit's right in the concept of there really is no time. It's all just a matter of milestones.
And for the rock, we are the fruit fly.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we're the fruit fly out of the rock. It's pretty sad.
Well, that's an amazing dream. That's the notion of dream is that you can experience all these different things, and part of the experience is being human. And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's the illusion. We think this is it, when in fact there are lots of other it's out there. Lots of other illusions and of different realities that are out there. We're not it, although we like to think we are. Wow. So what is it you think that kind of keeps you going? What's kind of the motivation that keeps you going in your work?
I don't really have a motivation. I just enjoy the experience of being. And I found out with time that when you practice mindfulness, you shed a lot of concepts. And when you shed a lot of concepts, what is left is your authentic self, your authenticity. And by authenticity, I mean the bundle of genes I have, circumstances, everything that made me who I am can play out authentically, or it can play out by pretending. So if I will take the analogy of plants, if I'm an apple tree, the apple tree doesn't have any issues and trying to be a lemon tree or trying to be a cucumber bush. An apple tree will be always an apple tree. It's authentic behavior, activity. So when you talk about people have a lot of concepts, a lot of masks. They're trying to be something. So when you shed and you lose concepts of who you are tuning to your authentic potential. And my authentic potential is where I am today. And I don't call it motivation. It's just the happiness of life for me, the bliss. When I wake up in the morning, I say, well, it's a wonderful experience. Let's have a ball. Let's go and see what's up. And the mission I'm involved in is not because I have some moral standpoint and I'm trying to change everyone. It's not about that. It's because this is who I am. And I'm using the tools of who I am as, an apple tree doesn't think of, oh, there's too much apples in the world, I should be a lemon, right? So from my point of view, what I'm doing is just being true to myself. And that's it. That's my motivation.
Great. Last question for me. What, if there was one thing, what one thing do you think you could tell a listener today that you think could help them in some way, whether it's the practice of mindfulness or the practice of meditation or the practice of not being a lemon tree, or what one thing do you think might help them?
Well, it's quite difficult because there are a lot of different minds. So it's kind of hard to come up with one thing that will be true for everyone. I can say what was true for me. That's the best attempt I can do. And I think what worked for me is not being intellectually lazy. When I asked questions that were profound questions, like, who am I anyway? This entity that asks all these questions. So that helped me, that triggered me. But for other people, that could be small things, like just being mindful, just focus on your breath, focus on your coffee break, focus on the experience of life. And I would say that my position in life is always be a student. And that means that if you are a student, you don't have the problems of clinging to any truth. You don't need to be a master. If you're a master, you have placed boundaries over yourself. Like, who are you? And you are this master, and you should lead your life according to the knowledge you have, according to what you teach or what you preach or whatever. And I think that because life is transient in nature, we evolve with time. And so you don't need to be a master. You can just be a student of life. And that, from this standpoint, you don't have any problems. You don't have any issues. It doesn't mean that you cannot share your ideas. It doesn't mean that you cannot share your knowledge, but you're always sharing it from the point of view, from the place of a student or someone on the path, and not from someone that knows the absolute truth, because that will make you cling to your own truth, which could be destructive, and it could lead astray so many people.
Interesting. So always be the student, and perhaps also always follow your joy. Never allow yourself to, feel like whatever it is that you're doing has to be that burden. Otherwise, you won't keep doing it.
You will not do it for very long. And this is also, you said in the beginning of the introduction that I'm an entrepreneur. This is the number one lesson for all entrepreneurs, that everyone says, it's not my idea, that when you are building something, you should do it from the place that you love it, you care about it. It's something you enjoy, because there will be a lot of hardship during your process, your path. And if you're not passionate enough, you will just drop it. You will not be that vested. So the same goes for life, not only for entrepreneurs.
Everything. Yeah, that's so true. You've got to find the passion, and it's the passion that'll keep you going. Well, wonderful. Rudy, thank you so much for coming on and teaching us so much. Where can people reach out and connect with you?
So first of all, thank you for having me, Chris. It was a wonderful conversation. Enjoyed it very much. And we absolutely shared the same core ideas, I feel, and we resonate with a lot of things. So that was wonderful. And thank you for this experience.
Thank you.
I would say that the best way to reach out is through Affirmate. Me and my co-founder, very, very involved with what people experience and think. So you can reach out through the contact form in the app itself. You can download it on Android or iOS. You will see that it's like a logo with a vibration inside, or through our website, affirmate.app. So any concern you have, any idea you have, you just want to reach out, you want to speak to me or speak to my co-founder, that would be absolutely the best way. And maybe you can add it to your show notes, so it will be easier for people to get there.
Absolutely. It'll definitely be in the show notes. So that'll definitely be one thing to take a look at. So if you're interested in reaching out to Rudy or about the app, take a look at the show notes. All the good information will be in there. And as always, if you've got any ideas or thoughts that you'd like to share with me, by all means, send me an email or something. You can just send it to chris@spiritsbesideus.com. And you can shoot an email over, and with any thoughts you've got, love to hear you. And if you love what you're hearing and you want to hear more of it, by all means, like and subscribe. That way you'll always be notified of the next episode that comes down through the pipeline. And with that, I'll be signing off and sending you love and light. This is Chris, and I will see you next week. So see you next time. Until now. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Spirits Beside Us. Make sure you head over to the show notes for all the links and information on this week's episode. You can check it out at spiritsbesideus.com. If you love this episode as much as I did, head over to rate and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're looking for a community of spiritual seekers like yourself, make sure you join my Facebook page, Spirits Beside Us Podcast on Facebook. This is Chris signing off, sending you love and light. I can't wait to connect with you again on Wednesday.